Right, so I'm going to give you a bit of a rundown on my MEGAmaschine template for Ableton Live. So the problem I've had with lots of other templates is they try and fit everything in, and there's no real workflow associated with it. So a lot of the time I find it easier just to pick up the keyboard and mouse and do what I want rather than dig through so many pages just to find one button. So I've tried to come up with a way of really cutting back the features and just putting into the template the things that I find necessary. What I've come up with is basically a workflow to go along with the template. So the idea is you start a project, you've got some instruments in there that you're happy with, you've got some drum sounds and so on, and you're ready to get into the jam sort of phase, just to start getting your ideas down and making some loops. And that's where I find that this template is going to be really useful, because let's face it, the mouse and the keyboard is great for a lot of things, for doing the mixing and the arranging later on and your little edits and all that. But when you just want to get in the flow of things and get your musical ideas down, I think that's really where the hands-on approach of the Maschine comes into its own. So that's what I've tried to do with this Ableton Live template. The thing that really sets this template apart from the other templates I've seen is that I'm using this selected track control MIDI remote script for Ableton Live, and it allows me to put some features in here that I haven't seen in other templates. So just starting with the boring stuff, down here you've got your sort of standard transport controls. So we've got play pause and play restart, which will restart from the cursor, record and overdub, and which is the record and erase buttons down here, and then you've got grid, which will switch between arrangement and pattern view. Okay, so on to the good stuff. The idea is use the swing knob here, and that will select the track. As you can see, I can scroll left to right there, and then these buttons down here will operate on that selected track. So I've got mute button, solo button, and the select button here will arm or disarm the track. So that's really handy. Up here on the knobs we've got volume, you can see there, and pan. Right, and then working back from the top on these buttons, we've got scene, which will play the selected scene, pattern, which will play the selected pattern or record an empty pattern. The pad mode button here stops the selected pattern, and then the navigate and duplicate lets you go up and down in your scene, in your pattern view. So that's all really handy, because you're jamming along, you've got it playing, you're playing a loop, then you can select a different instrument, you can punch in the pattern, record something, stop that pattern, go down to the next one, record your next idea, all while it's playing, all without touching the keyboard or mouse. So if we go to the arrangement view, you see, well, you can barely see, but I've got these locators here, and they're in there and they're mapped to the controller. So the 8 buttons across here on the first page, which is the macro and location page, you've got 1 to 8, and you can trigger those locators, and that's really handy. So you set those locators to different transition points in your track, and you've got these buttons at your fingertips at any time to jump to that point and start recording, MIDI or automation or whatever you're doing. And the 2 buttons I've got up here next to it, I've mapped so that the control button will actually select the machine track. And the first time you do it, once you've loaded up the template, you'll have to click this machine spanner to bring up the plugin window. But if you've got the right selections in your Ableton preferences, which is like the auto plugin window pop up on, or whatever it's called, there's three buttons which you all have to turn on. They're pretty self-explanatory. But yeah, so the idea is you can press the control button and it'll pop up the window, and the one next to it, step, that selects the master track, which the choice of master track is arbitrary. It just basically means if you've got that auto hide preference enabled, you'll be able to use these two buttons, control and step, just to bring up the window or to take it away. So yeah, if you're only working with one monitor, that's really handy. You can load up the window, make your changes into Maschine. You press shift control to get back to your Maschine control. You know, record your little drum loops, press shift control again, you're back on the template, and then press step, the window's gone, and you're ready to select a different track and yeah, do what you got to do. Going into what I think's probably the coolest feature about all this, it's using Ableton's instant mapping function. So on this macro and location page, these 8 knobs here are mapped macro 1 through to 8, and so anything that you put into a rack automatically comes up with 4 knobs which are assignable. Let me just select the audio one here. This is just a dummy track, nothing's on it except this EQ. I've got an EQ8 here that I've mapped. It's included in the template, you can see it when you download it. So I've got the 8 knobs here. I'll just put the camera closer. You can see high pass, band 1 frequency, band 1 gain. Yeah, I won't go through them all. You see there, basically I've mapped this in a way which takes care of 90% of my EQing task, and I'll put one of these on pretty much every channel. So what happens when you select the track, these 8 controls here are mapped to the 8 knobs across the Maschine automatically. So yeah, you can show it here. There's your high pass filter going, and there's a low pass. I've also got a high shelf and 2 bands in there. One band has a wide Q that's not mapped, so for doing your wide boosts or cuts, and then band 2 has the Q control in there, so you can do your sharper boosts or cuts. So I'll just go over the last few buttons that I have mapped here, which is also to do with selecting and controlling devices, which enables you to use the instant mapping function. So I'll just select this simpler track here. So this has got simpler in a rack and then an EQ next to it. So the browse button here, that brings up your device detail bar down the bottom, and the sampling button will select the first device in the chain here if it already isn't selected. So you need that button to be able to put this device, make this device selected, and when it's selected, it means the macro knobs will automatically be mapped to your Maschine controller. And then you've got these snap and auto right buttons just under the left and right arrows, which allow you to go left and right through your device chain. So simply selected, the maps and the knobs are mapped here, as you can see, and then you go across the EQ, and there your EQ's going. So the idea is any VST or live device that I use a lot, I make a rack for it, map the controls here, and then save it into your library or into a place where you just put all your favorite instruments. So when you load up this set, it's like a blank slate. You pull across your favorite synths or whatever, and it's all mapped and ready to go. And yeah, just going on to the next page here, I've just got sends A through H, and that's just for recording send automation. And so yeah, the idea is you can have it playing, select your track, start recording, record your notes as well as your automation control here with the knobs, go across, record send automation, and yeah. So just the last few things about this template. Here you can see I've got the Maschine track, and it's got a bunch of clips here called scene 1, 2, 3, 4 to 8. Now that's for that'll send a program change message, I think it is, to the Maschine VST, and that allows you to select between scenes in the Maschine VST. That can be helpful sometimes, especially when you're jamming around. I actually do it a different way, which you can see in the other workflow tips video I was talking about, but it's still handy to have it in there in case you want to play with it. Next, across here, I've got a group called drums, which you can expand out. And then I've got 8 tracks in here, which are all coming from Group A in the Maschine VST. So I've got them already mapped to separate outputs, certain pads. I might put this in a diagram form because I think it'll be easier, but it's basically I've got the sub kick, I've got these 2 pads on another kick channel, and then this pad on another kick layer channel. So I usually have my real low bass, this is sort of the body of my kick, and then maybe a real clicky attack that you control here. And then I've got snare layer, hats, percussion across the top. I think that's it. And then I've also got Group B routed to a track here, and Group C. And so that's for any additional samples or whatever I like to put in. Sometimes I change this layout around, but I think it's really handy to start with something like this. It saves you a lot of time of having to assign outputs every time. Yeah. So I think that's covers about everything. I'm interested to hear people's comments, if they find it useful, if they have ideas for other features. Yeah, so hit me up on the links down at the bottom of the video, Twitter, Facebook, all that. Cheers.